Hey, welcome back. In this lesson we're going to take a look at the new responsive design mode. This was a feature announced recently and it's probably still in development, so features may change, but hopefully for the most part it'll stay the same. So let's get straight into it. I've opened up the developer tools and as you can see in the top left corner I've got this little devices icon and that will toggle emulation mode. So I'll click it and as you can see the page suddenly looks a lot different to what it used to. Our page has kind of shrunk in size and in the back we've got this sort of blueprint design. Take note that on the top and left hand side there are rulers. So again, don't forget this is all entirely aimed at responsive design and how to properly test your web pages for mobile. Let's take a look at the new features that this gives us. In the top we've got these device presets. I should say that you'll find a lot of similarity between this and the emulation pane that we covered in one of the earlier lessons. Chances are that the emulation panel and this emulation mode will slowly mix into one, but right now they seem to happily coexist. So again, we've got a bunch of device presets. I think a few new ones have been added like these notebooks, so we can select one of these and the page will update in real time. Right below those device presets we have the ability to edit these values in real time, so I can change that to 50 or 500. This checkbox allows us to toggle the emulation of the screen resolution, so I can check that on and off. Because remember, you don't have to use a device preset, you can control each of these settings individually. We've also got the ability to swap dimensions right here, and we can also control the device pixel ratio, which is pretty cool for testing that your assets will work well on Retina, for example. And finally, we have the ability to toggle the fitting of the screen to the available screen space. Now this is all good, but again, we've had access to these before in the emulation panel. Right now all that's happened is they've basically moved into a different area of the DevTools. But there are a few new features, the first of which is the Media Query Inspector. We can get to that by clicking right here. And maybe you can guess what these are showing us. These are showing us the breakpoints that the currently inspected page has registered. And I don't know about you, but I think this feature is great because on a number of occasions I've wanted to know what CSS media query breakpoints have I put into my CSS files. But here's where it gets even better. We can even click on each of these to actually trigger the appropriate breakpoint. So this makes testing for all the breakpoints that you've registered really quick and really easy. And don't forget, when you trigger these will also reflect in this styles pane at the bottom here. Now what if we want to find the place where these media queries were registered? Well, let's try and do that. I'll make the DevTools a bit bigger and we can see that there's a media query breakpoint here of 991 pixels. So I'll go to Sources panel, close that, Command Alt and F, now do a search for 991 pixels. Okay, it looks like Bootstrap has actually registered these breakpoints, so I'll click here, and this isn't too useful because it's all minified, so I'll pretty print that. And cool, I'm taken straight to the point where that media query breakpoint was registered. However, there is an easier way to do this. So I'll make the DevTools a bit smaller, close that drawer. If we right click on these breakpoints we can select Reveal in source code, and you can actually select the various places where this appears. So I'll select one, we can even select another, and that works just as you would expect. I'm going to go to the network panel now because I want to show you another brand new feature of this emulation mode. And this is the throttling feature. In the past, to check my pages worked well on what would typically be a mobile connection speed, I would use a tool called Charles Proxy to throttle my fast network connection to something a lot slower. Now, for the first time, DevTools has this support natively. So we can select this drop down right here, and as you can see we've got a bunch of presets. And hovering over a connection speed gives you information about the throughput. So I'll select GPRS, and I'll hit Command R to refresh the page. Now I can definitely see things are taking a lot longer. Check this out, it took like 5 seconds. And just to confirm that's working, if I clear that, and select no throttling, refresh the page. Okay, this definitely took a lot quicker, so throttling is a new feature of the DevTools and it just works. I would really recommend that you try throttling your network connection and test your pages to make sure they load in an acceptable manner. It's understandable that things will be slower, of course, but where possible you want to try and avoid showing nothing but a white screen to your user. Consider prioritizing the content that will typically be visible in the initial viewport load, and delaying the download of external resources for later. Okay, so let's recap. I'm going to close this feature, close the DevTools. We're at our page, we open up the DevTools, and we want to use emulation mode, so we click right here. And suddenly the whole page changes. We've got these sliders that we can use to see how our page responds, and we've got this media query inspector which we can toggle on and off right here. Each of these media query breakpoints can be clicked on to essentially trigger them, and you can also right click and select Reveal in source code to find the place in code where it was set. You've got the usual device presets that we learned about in emulation panel lesson, and you can edit these values manually and get a real-time update. We have the ability to throttle our network connection, which is really recommended to make sure that your pages behave in an acceptable manner. And finally, one thing I didn't mention is you can click on these 3 dots and that will open up the emulation panel, which we have seen already. And as you can see, the features that you already know are still present. They haven't gone anywhere, but again, over time these might sort of merge into one. And so that is the emulation mode. I hope you found it interesting, and do check it out and see what you think. See you later.